you for
You got it, Paul. Give me 1 second here, will you? Just you're going to get that little alert on your screen. We are recording this, of course, and we are streaming it. So, Mr. Barkowitz, you're all set. Thank you.
great. Thanks much, Seth. Hey, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order. I see that Jen is here, Patrice, Paul Barkowitz is here, Howie, Aaron, Corey. I don't see Eric or Jeff. Great. And then Christine, you want to introduce your team, Copley Wolf team?
Absolutely. Good evening. So from Copley Wolf is myself, Christine Wilson, and Madeline Kirshner. Jim Herr is not with us this evening, but he is on the Copley Wolf team. And then we have Leanne Davis from BIA Studio and Ryan DuPont. Ryan, is that how you pronounce your name?
Correct.
From GZA. He's the project manager at GZA with, of course, as most of you all know, a whole team of engineers and permitting specialists behind him. So
great. And we also welcome Scott Greenbaum and Stephen Litchfield, Scott Payne. Anyone I miss? Oh, Ed Dixon. Hi, Ed. Great. Let me just start out. The town has adopted a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. I included it at the end of the agenda. Let me just read it. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcomed and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards to support and respect our community. And I'll certainly have also appreciated the civil discourse we've always had within our commission. First housekeeping is approval of the minutes of our December 1st meeting. I sent those out a while ago and with the agenda materials as well. Anyone have any comments, questions, or motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hearing all ayes, the minutes are approved. Next is update from the Copley Wolf team. Before you start, Christine, I just want to say what a pleasure it's been to work with the professionals at Copley Wolf. We've had a number of meetings with them. Whenever we ask for something, we get a very quick and thorough and appreciated response. And I know I'm sure I speak for the commission and the town. We're just blessed to have your professional group and the enthusiasm and creativity and experience that you bring to our project. So thank you, and we look forward to your update.
great, thank you. So we're going to be presenting a slide deck this evening. I'm just going to share my screen and probably, let's see. Oh, my computer just glitched out. Sorry about that.
I can pull it up on mine too.
Yeah, maybe you should do that, Madeline. And while she does that, I'll just say that, so we're going to be going through, maybe I should stop sharing. Okay. So we've been working over the last couple of months since the last SHARC meeting with town staff on developing 3 concept alternatives. And so we're going to be going through those 3 concept alternatives. A few of you have seen these, and so they've just kind of been tweaked, updated since probably you last saw them, those of you who have seen them. Tonight, we're also going to have Leon go over some pavilion concepts. So Leon, our architect on the team, his team of architects have been developing some ideas for the pavilion that we're really excited to share with you tonight. So that's brand new for everyone. And then we're going to go over the project schedule. And so Ryan from GZA is going to help me out with that. We've been, in conversations with Corey who say like, okay, let's take a larger look. It's not just about from now to the April annual town meeting, but let's start this discussion of what's happening past then. When do we need to get the geo report done? When do we need to do the building hazard assessment? How long is it going to take for us to produce, move through the design process to produce bid documents, et cetera. So we're going to go over that schedule and then end on more immediately now until the April 10th annual town meeting. And what does, all the outreach, what was happening between now and then, because it's only like 10 weeks away. And I know Paul's out for a couple weeks on vacation and probably other people are going on vacation and lots probably going on in town. So we just want to kind of get a kind of nailed down with you when everything should happen between now and April. So, sorry, Madeline, I should have had you open up and maybe Acrobat and done full screen, or maybe we can do full screen here. But let's flip down to the next slide. And just where we are in the kind of right here, we started, we had the first SHARC meeting in mid-October, the second one, the 1st of December. And then in late December and mid-January, we met with town staff. Right before, like a couple town staff, Conservation Commission, Planning Board members, more informally right before the holidays, just to get some basic direction. And then with the town design review team on January 17th. And here we are on January 26th with the 3rd SHARC meeting. We have our website as well that we're looking right now as we're going to start publicizing these concepts. We want to also have that conversation of how do we let everyone know that there is a website for this project. So we'll come back to that. I already kind of ran through the content of this presentation. So with that, I'm just going to jump right into the updated site concepts. And actually, before I do so, just for scale, we took actually an older version of a concept design and we overlaid in red the existing parking spaces. So there's 62 parking spaces currently on site and 2 of those are accessible parking spaces. And we also overlaid that existing Pier 44 building footprint. Just for scale, as I move through the next few concepts, like there's not people in the drawing, so it's kind of hard to understand, scale without people and cars at this kind of preliminary stage. So just so you have a sense of how big, everything is on site. 70% of the site right now is parking. This first concept looks at parking only being, oh, sorry, Mal, if you're going.
Next one.
Yeah, concept 1,
Perfect.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, so concept 1, 11% of the site is parking on this one. Just want to call that out. For each of the concepts up in the top left corner is the percent of the site that's dedicated to parking. We're on all 3 concepts. We're looking to create a park, not a parking lot. And in all 3 concepts, there is a pavilion. The pavilion changed its location. And you'll see with Leon, the pavilion design, changes, though with kind of all of the pieces, the ideas from that he presents on the pavilion for over here could be applied to a pavilion that's over there, for example. The parking lots, the trees, the boardwalk, the pathways, everything can kind of shift and honestly will, be refined as we move through the design process. But again, so each of these concepts has, 10 to 14 parking spaces. This one shows 10 angled spots. The pavilion on the north side of the parcel, closer to the private marina. And then a boardwalk. All 3 concepts have a boardwalk, just a little different in form and how it lays out on the site. Open lawn, bioretention, kind of planting areas, native plantings, and then on all three, we're really kind of molding that shoreline for resiliency, naturalizing that shoreline. And we can talk more about that, but it's really done to for multiple benefits to kind of really craft it to reduce impact of storm surge, to elevate it a little bit. So, you know, as the sea level rises, I mean, January, Corey took photos for us, sorry, in December, right before Christmas on the 23rd, Corey took photos for us showing the waves coming over into the parking lot and flooding right around the existing building. So there are a number of things we're kind of doing to with that shoreline and all three concepts. And all of what we're looking at is going to make this project eligible for grants that support resilient projects like this that use nature-based solutions. So I just want to add that. So if we move to the next concept, this one is different because this one has a pier that goes out over the water, and there's the pavilion located on the pier. So that's kind of the big move on this one. The last one is honestly probably the easiest to permit. This one is definitely going to be the most complicated to permit. It's definitely doable, and Ryan can dig into that if there are questions. But because the pavilion is out over the mean high water line with pilings, it will be the most complicated and the most costly. But really cool to be able, as from a public benefit perspective, to be able to get people out over the water and to really see up and down the harbor and just feel like you're out in the harbor. So a great public benefit. This kind of similarly to the last one, it's a different form of the boardwalk with these boardwalk little nodes, seating areas, open lawn areas. All concepts have open lawn areas. All the concepts have bioretention and planting areas for treating stormwater. And then this concept has the parking on kind of a similar area, but this one only has, the last one had pull in and pull out. So the sloop shuttle could come in and out. This one just has one curb cut. And then closer to the crosswalk that connects over to Situate Tavern, the sloop can pull in over there. In all concepts, we widen the sidewalk or created kind of planting areas to help treat the stormwater that comes off of Jericho Road a little bit. So we're not only managing all the stormwater on site with this project, but trying to mitigate the flooding on Jericho Road as well. If we move on to, oh, and I should point out, there's kind of this like curly, if you can point out the artful bike racks, oh, and the sculpture, talking to Patrice, we're looking at, you know, where are there opportunities on site? We're really excited about, you know, the public art opportunities, but in addition to, you know, improving the pedestrian traffic to the site with this, you know, promenade along Jericho Road and the sloop shuttle, we also want to take into account biking to the site and bike parking and maybe like artistic sculptural bike racks. So I just wanted to mention that's what the kind of curly pink shape is on all options. And Madeline, if you can point out, or I'll do it on the next slide. You're good if you move to the next one. Our final concept, this really flips the parking over to the north side, over to the marina. The pavilion is centered more on the site, so north and south, and this one has it kind of more in the middle of the site with this kind of spill out plaza behind it and the boardwalk that runs kind of on either side. And that boardwalk runs over this living shoreline that really cuts more into the site, relaxes that shoreline a little more, brings that shoreline more into the site. So that boardwalk goes over the shoreline. We're exploring, you know, options for for like bleachers or stairs, not to get down into the water, like not to launch kayaks or anything, but just to kind of see the sea level rise and be able to get down a little more closer to the water, exploring how to, have of course accessible access down to it, like a ramp down to, so it for everyone can enjoy that kind of multi-level experience. And then if we move on to the last slide, this shows kind of all three together. So again, you can see how the pavilion location shifts between the three concepts. The parking lot layout, angled parking versus head-in parking lots, where the curb cuts are located varies in each one, and the shape of that boardwalk and how the shoreline is kind of modified, molded along that whole edge. The little white squares are bathrooms. We're looking at resilient, comfortable bathrooms. We're looking at potentially modular bathrooms that they, like the pavilion, are designed to be flooded. And I think on that note, so I guess the bottom there, you see the summary, 11% of the site is parking, then 14, and then 9. So again, the majority of the site is a park, which I think is really important. All the both environmental benefits that this park will provide is going to be amazing, but also all the activity that can occur here, whether it be just going to a tavern and coming out and having lunch or dinner overlooking the harbor out towards the lighthouse. We have swings, we could have really cool, funky furniture, durable, but like lounge chairs out on this boardwalk. We could have events like, I don't know, like a, walking or running event or art market, farmer's market, maybe wedding events or the ceremony at least, and spot to take photos, place to throw around a Frisbee and have picnic is what we kind of heard from the last meeting, that this group kind of thought was what made sense to happen in this park. So we can come back to this, but I want to hand it over to Leon to talk through the pavilion.
Thanks, Christine. So just before we dig into the concepts themselves, I wanted to do a little bit of an introduction here. At this stage, we're very early in the design process, and part of the idea from our perspective is that we wanted to get concepts in front of your group early that are still very malleable, and that really gives us the opportunity to take your feedback and your reactions to what we're developing. And as we move forward, we can discard ideas, we can bring in new ideas that you may have. So I just wanted to preface it with that. The other thing I wanted to kind of put as a seed in your minds as we talk through the concepts is we heard early on that there was a desire for this pavilion to be iconic, but iconic in a way that's representative of Scituate. And to that end, I think you guys are really the best arbiters of what is resonant to the town and what feels appropriate. So we've taken 3 very distinct approaches in these concepts that you'll see, and they're all meant to have varying degrees of uniqueness. And also we've tried to take some concepts that we feel are appropriate to the town and your town relationship with the water. So with that, I'll jump into this first scheme, which we're kind of calling the Wave. And really, this is meant to be a very sculptural pavilion that's a representation of Scituate's relationship with the harbor and the water. Obviously, that's a very major driver in the history of the town. The pavilion itself is situated on the site at the northern end. And as Christine was saying, really, we could cite any of these concepts in any of the park schemes. But this siting is very much trying to frame views from Heatherly Road as you kind of follow that procession down to the waterfront. The flowing form and materiality are really meant to be a continuation of the landscape on this scheme. So it's really an opportunity to to take this structure and stretch and pull it so that it integrates into the park and into some of the park program. For instance, Christine mentioned that maybe there's swings or benches. So we really could take pieces of the structure and pull them into archways or create seating and things like that in a more playful way with this scheme. Now, for materiality, we're showing just a little glimpse of potential materials that we could use in the palette. Generally, the idea here would be that it would be a wood cedar structure, so it would weather and age and be very beautiful as an interior space and a very natural feeling element in the site. And another thing we've been thinking about with this concept specifically is copper roof could be very beautiful as a kind of a nod to the lighthouse roof, and also that green, blue, patinaed copper look is something that really only happens in the marine environment, and it's a soft and natural aesthetic, but it's also something that kind of uniquely copper, as it oxidizes with time, gets thicker and more durable. So it's a very resilient material on this site and in this relationship to the harbor. This pavilion is the least enclosed or enclosable, I would say. So the idea with this scheme would be to do something that's more open to the surrounding park, and you might flow in and out of it from multiple sides. And as you can see, it's a very flowy and sinuous form. So that really does give us a lot of flexibility to manipulate it as needed based on how it's ultimately sited, what the grade is doing. I know there's opportunities here to have the grade rise and fall and create little moments and promontories, but ultimately the scheme is just meant to be something very sculptural and a beautiful place to sit and enjoy the park in the water. For the next scheme, maybe we can jump ahead. So this scheme, which we're calling the reflective pier, the idea here is to take the very dynamic plane of the water's surface and to lift it up into the ceiling of the pavilion, creating a space that really gives you a sense of that fluid motion that's happening down below you if you're on the pier, or next to you if you're not. So to achieve this, what we would do is we would build a masonry column pier structure, which you're seeing is the more orthogonal framed structure. And those are meant to really define the interior space, give us some opportunities for enclosure. And there's a number of different flexible enclosure systems that we're going to touch on at the end that depending on how you envision using the pavilion, we could implement those in very different ways. But those also, these piers are meant to frame views and give you some very specific views looking out into the harbor and into the park. But then the roof itself would be these curving glulam beams. And those beams, again, they're emulating that fluid water expression. They're also being covered, or they're supporting a diffused fiberglass roofing system. So the fiberglass roofing systems are a very durable and cost-effective way to do a skylight that gives you a nice, beautiful, translucent light into the space. It'd be a very bright and lively space. And with that ceiling and structural form of these curving beams, we would get really interesting and dynamic lighting with sort of that underwater lighting effect would be something that you could develop. So it's meant to be, again, a very, I'll say, serene and enclosed space that really gives you a unique understanding of your connection to the water on this site. And then the third scheme is a play on the traditional New England gable. So in this scheme, we're taking a simple extrusion of a gable form, and then we're allowing that very dynamic shoreline curving edge that the park has created, and we're allowing that to inform the building shape. So the building then pushes and pulls along the boardwalk to create a very nice promenade enclosed space. So this scheme, similar to the last one, would be, we're envisioning, again, some type of a masonry column that we would use in the floodable zone. And then above that would be a cedar wood structure that's capped with a skylight at the ridge. And so that'll create, again, a very bright and kind of uplifting space to be in while you're next to the water. That also gives you a great shelter and great views in both directions, to the water and then back to the park. On the water side here, we have a wider spacing between the columns, again, kind of directing your view out into the harbor. And then we would have the opportunity to play with tightening that up on the park side and giving you some opportunities to really enclose and define that space at a tighter scale. So with that, maybe I'll just jump into the enclosure concepts, and then we can circle back and get your reactions to each of the schemes. But we did want to touch on enclosure just because that was such a big piece of the discussion early on. And I know there's a desire for these pavilions to be enclosable to some extent. And there really are quite a few ways we could do that. And it really comes down to, more than anything else, I think, how you would envision actually operating the facility, because some of these enclosure schemes are much more appropriate to being operated by the public themselves. Others really would require someone, either facilities or maintenance department, to set up and take down. The other thing to keep in mind with the enclosure is we really have a spectrum of options in terms of how enclosed the space feels. And so are you doing something that's glass that maintains a view out to the park and to the water? Or are you doing something that's screening and really giving you more of a sense of this is an interior space? And we could do a little bit of both on different sides of the pavilion. That would certainly be an option. The other piece to that is we have a spectrum of how much weather protection are we getting. So something like a wood screen is going to give you that feeling of an enclosed space, but it's obviously not going to prevent wind and rain the same way a glass system would. Fabric screen systems, which can be a very good flexible option here, but they do require some care. I think anyone who's familiar with the marine environment and kind of sailboat canvas knows you kind of have to put it up and take it down, and it only has a specific lifespan. So you'd have to buy a new canvas every, let's say, 10 years. But there are quite a few very nice and high-end systems that are used in places like wedding venues and upscale restaurants. So that's definitely a road that we could go down, and we could integrate into the architectural moves in a cohesive way. So ultimately, I think which direction we go, if we do any of these, it's up to more how you envision using the space than it is just the material choices themselves. So with that, I'd love to open it up to discussion and hear your thoughts.
And Madeline, I think I fixed my computer issue, so I can share my screen now. But yes, opening it up for any questions, comments on these options.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys, because I had provided a visual of the Bristol, Rhode Island pavilion just as a cue for what I was hoping. And you guys have completely blown me away with all three. Like the first one is so sinuous and it's very dynamic, and it's like visually the most exciting. But I think, in my opinion, the one that would be that we get the most use out of would probably be the third, the Harborside Gable, only because I see issues I see with the wave would be retrofitting or creating the enclosures to fit it. It would require a much more Sorry, I'm having a hard time getting my words out, but I think you know what I'm saying. Everything would have to be more custom, where I think with the straight lines with either the reflected pier or the harborside cable, the edges are straighter. I think it would be easier to get those enclosures. But I just,
Sorry to interrupt. Is my screen flashing or is it just me?
it's not flashing, but there's grayed out
Bars.
triangles.
Oh, okay. Madeline, I'm gonna hand it back to you.
Gotcha.
I'm so sorry. I thought I fixed it.
But
Sorry,
I
Patrice.
honestly think that I love all three of the concepts, and I could be, as we've said before, like with the concepts in general, I could be happy with any of them. I have my preferences, but I love the design work that you've undertaken. I feel that you listen and you respond. So thank you for that.
Great. Thanks, Patrice. Let's get other comments from the commission members and then to the public. And I did want to, I noticed that Chris Connor and Steve Pisa have joined us. Karen Connolly, comments or questions?
Oh, comments from me? Well, I will say I have to admit they're all very nice. The wavy one, I would be concerned about, you know, and the architect knows better. I'm just concerned about the site and what kind of wind we experienced down there. And the one that's sort of more modulating or undulating, which almost looks like it wants to fly away. And, you know, I am also concerned when I heard the word copper, I got very concerned about that. Copper is extremely expensive and difficult to come by these days. So as much as I like it as an architectural feature, unless it was simply a feature, not the whole roof, we do have to be concerned about costs here. And I guess my other, so I'm not going to tell you that I would pick one design over the other, but the other thing I think that we probably can't afford are enclosures for a variety of reasons. This is not going to be a building, quote unquote, that is attended by anyone in terms of putting things up and down and back and forward. And so I think the simpler, the better. But very beautiful all.
One thing I do want to just say regarding materiality real quick is that there's a lot of directions we could go with any of these schemes in terms of materiality, and obviously we would be designing to a specific budget. So I don't think we want to pick a scheme necessarily based on material decisions, and that's part of why we've shown them as a white model at this point, because
Right.
you really have a lot of ways we could go with that.
Well, I just think that mentioning the word copper immediately. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I appreciate all of them.
Jen O'Neill, any comments or questions?
No, thank you, Paul. So first of all, apologies, my camera is not working, but I love all the concepts. I mean, if I'm sort of ranking them, my favorite for the layout would be number 3, but I like the reflective pier concept for the pavilion. And I guess if, as was stated, you could possibly even put some glass on there to have an enclosure area so that there could be some type of separated programming during the day or even the evening, and others could still continue to use the area. I think would be fabulous if we could do something along those lines.
Thanks,
Jennifer. Is there would you be able to elaborate why you like number 3 the best?
Oh, why I like number 3 the best?
Yeah.
I think it has more, and again, I'm not an architect, I'm not a designer, but to my eye, it just looks like it has more open space than the others. And I think that was the one, maybe I'm wrong, but you could have sort of the stairs down to the water, or could you do that? And I know you can do sort of all the concepts, mix and match them possibly, but those were the things that stuck out to me. I just felt like it had a little more open space based on the picture.
Yeah,
And
no, that's perfect. That's super helpful.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Howie?
I like the third one a lot, and I like the idea of the tiered type, if I'm understanding this right, the tiered type of seating going down to the waterfront. I just have one question on that piece of it. Is there any opportunity for us to put any sort of a small float there where, let's say, a transient boater that has a little dinghy could row up to and be able to use the facility? Might that be an opportunity?
Well,
Ryan,
there is a launch area right in the marina. I think that Karen or Corey and the public have access to that.
yeah, there's, it's kind of just off the page in this view. We have some other views that show that marina float, that's just like right south of the site. And you can see, I didn't highlight this, but the property line jogs where, yeah, thank you, Madeline. So it, on the left side, the south side of the site, it goes out to mean low water.
Yeah.
But on the like other 2/3 of the north part of the site, it really follows kind of like the top of that riprap slope.
Yeah.
And so the marina owns that. Yeah. And I think we've been kind of talking about how there's the boat ramp, right? 2 parcels on the other side of the marina, and how that would be the place that you put in boats there. But I don't know how, Howie, what do you think?
No, well, I'm not thinking about boats and big boats
Okay.
and motors. All I'm thinking is we have a very dynamic harbor in the summertime with transient boaters and people that have dinghies who take a mooring and come ashore. And this appears to be a terrific opportunity. I've seen it done in other places with this park arrangement where they can row up and tie off and then be a part of, use a part of the park effectively. And it also allows people to walk down to the water. It doesn't have to be elaborate. If you look at the east side of the boat ramp today, there's something similar. It's not a big, I wouldn't even call it a dock, but barely a float. And then in the wintertime, you would take that float off and store it as we do some of the other floats that we have around. But it would just help with particularly transient people who just tour the harbor, and it gives them an opportunity to stop there. The other thing that goes around in my head here is, what's the attraction for young people with young children to come to this site? I've seen some other programs here where I'm in Florida right now, where they've got a few things that absolutely attract young people, one being a small splash pad, and families, particularly on Sunday, come and take advantage of that, and it gives the children a reason for being there and something they look forward to. So it's just an attraction that I think would be something that maybe we've already considered it, but that's my thought.
I think, talking to Patrice and others, we definitely want to have an element of attraction there, art pieces, things that really, are unique to the site. I mean, this is in a way a canvas for some really cool art. Maybe it could be both artistic bike racks, as I mentioned, but signage, but furniture. Like we, showed a couple pictures before of like really custom, cool, fun swings. Like I think in the details, we can get really fun and think about those families and like what would draw families to this site, what would make it this like a really fun destination. So I think that's something that we should not forget about as we move forward.
Thanks, Christine. Corey.
I really appreciate all 3 designs. The third one to me just looks so symmetrical. It's very pleasing to have sort of like the pavilion in the plaza right in the middle of the site, and you can walk to either side. I really think that having it symmetrical just seems so pleasing to the eye. And the pavilions are just beautiful. I love each concept, but I do have to agree with Karen on the wave. I feel like with the wind that sometimes comes across the harbor, like it would just like whistle. And I just, that's one of the things that I was kind of thinking about in the back of my mind. But so the harborside gable seems like something that would probably be, you know, like the most kind of easiest to put there. So that's kind of my thinking there, but I do love all three concepts, especially number 3.
Thanks, Corey. So let me chime in. You know, I question the need for enclosures. I think I see this as more of a open space. I think, you know, someone could put up, you know, those little portable partitions or something, you know, for a particular event, just to shield it off a little bit. When I talked about and think about an iconic architectural look, that's what the wave is what I was thinking of. I love the wave. So I had a vote. That's the one I'd vote for. And again, I don't see this as having enclosures like some of the other pavilions we've seen. But again, all the designs are beautiful and creative and functional, and I think would serve us well. Let me open up to other folks on the meeting. Who else has comments or questions? Sue, go ahead.
Hi, Paul. Thank you. I love all of these designs. I think they are beautiful. But I have to agree with the majority here. I think number 3, the Harborside Gable, I think is a bit more traditional for the area, which may be that the people in town would love. I do love the wave feeling on the others, but it does feel like it might sail away, even though I'm sure it wouldn't. And the third option on the layout of the park itself, I think is great. I like the parking lot over near the other cars. And it gives the feeling the park is much bigger than the others. I know it's all the same size. And the boardwalk area incorporated into the pavilion is beautiful. The only other thing, I think it would ruin the inside look, but if you did sort of I don't want to say a garage door, but something, a rollaway that would be tucked inside, that might, but I think you'd have to do something that you could see through it would defeat the purpose completely if you, but again, it's a mechanical thing on the ocean. It'll be broken in 10 years, less than. So I could go with it open and just use it in the beautiful weather, the nice, you know, I mean, you get at least a good 6 months out of it as with no sides at all. So but I love every part of what you've done. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. How about Ed Dixon? Ed is still on.
Sorry, just trying to unmute, Paul.
Oh, I see you there.
Yeah, I think the parks look beautiful. All 3 designs look lovely. You know, I think for the needs that the school had indicated, really none of the structures address the issue that the school was looking for both the sailing team and I think for some of the functions. I'm actually even just curious what the pavilions are even for, because if it's to have any kind of a gathering or function down there, you still have a parking issue even with only 10 spots. You're never going to be able to have any kind of an event down there. So, but as far as the layout of the designs, you know, as a park, as I said, they're beautiful, but for what I think we were hoping to get from the design process. The restrooms are really the only applicable structures for us.
Yeah, and I think yet, as we've explained, following the site survey and the flood zoning, any enclosed structure would have to be 9 to 10 feet off the ground, and of course have public access that would require ramps that were 100 to 125 linear feet. So it's just not practical. We all had hoped we'd have some enclosed building with a meeting space and room for the visitor center and restrooms, but that's just not workable. So
And I
that's
believe
why we had professionals do a survey and, give us the correct information.
Yeah, and I was concerned about that after the prior meeting when the title displays were indicated and it showed. We all know how much that area floods, but once again, the seasonal needs down there, as we all know, all those surrounding parking areas are completely packed by the restaurants, the marinas and the town pier and all that. So, like I said, as a park, it's gorgeous. And I think it would be a great place to be able to relax and enjoy the harbor side. And if there were some picnic tables down there or areas where you could just sit and relax, it would be ideal.
Yeah, and as far as the pavilion, our thinking was it would just enhance the use because it would be covered, and just like any event on town property, there'd be an application to the select board. They put appropriate conditions on use of the pavilion, such as outside parking, transportation, buses or cable cars or whatever, for parking. So that would all be covered in that. Chris Connor, any comments or observations?
No, thank you.
Stephen Litchfield?
Hi, I had my audio turned off. I like the third concept. I think that seems to be the one everybody likes, and I think that sort of fits better in the spot. Other than that, everything everybody said really is the same kind of things that are coming to me. I can't think of anything to add really. So it's all looking really good though.
Thank you, Stephen. Scott? I'm Scott Payne. We've got two Scotts.
Hi, sorry about that. Coming from Ed's perspective, when this was first talked about, we were kind of hoping that maybe this could be a place where we could house the sailing team from the high school and potentially have a remote classroom. That could be down there to take advantage of the environmental situation, but understanding everything that comes with that. I love the concept of the park, realizing that, those other things probably are just, not realistic. I live on Lighthouse Road and, from outside of probably January and February, hundreds of people walk down that road every day, and I can see every one of them using this facility to stop and drink their coffee and, just look out at the ocean and look at the lighthouse and whatnot. I think this will be a tremendous asset to our community. I do love number 3, Harborside. I just think it's aesthetically very pleasing. I love the layout. I realize that there's a lack of parking, but the hundreds of people that walk out to the lighthouse, they park someplace. And it's not on Lighthouse Road or Rebecca Road. So they're probably parking in the harbor and taking that long walk. And I can just see that, this would be a great spot for them to sit and talk and families to relax and come to. And I think it'd be a great addition to our area.
Thank you, Scott. How about Scott Greenbaum?
car. So, yeah, I mean, I've been sailing coach for a couple of years, and actually 4 years now. And this is the best location to run the high school sailing program out of. Right now, we are living on the graces of the Citrus Boat Club, which no longer has any students in our program. And I have, as a past member of the Conservation Commission, I don't think it's that difficult these days to get some type of close space for us. We don't require a lot. I don't know the square footages of those pavilions. I'm guessing they're over 1,000 square feet. We need 300 or 400 square feet, secure places to store stuff. The money from the MBTA was specifically for, for public use, public benefit, and sports activities. So, that's how we bought the property. And it would be a shame that we would have to shut down a high school program because we don't have any places to run the program out of. You are allowed to put fill in there. I've noticed the commission since I left, they're allowing a lot more fill. And I believe you got to get 1 foot above base flood, which the building right now is about 1 inch above base flood. I know that Jericho Road overflows, at least in the perfect storm of 76. And maybe once in the last 2 decades. It just needs to get up probably about 2 or 3 feet. And we're not talking about long ramps. You already have all these walkways. They can all be tied in to be handicap accessible with natural flow of the park. You're already putting in some, features that are going up and down. You're talking about it. So I really, I like it as a park, but there is a recreational need for some space there to run the programs out of. And, that's my opinion. As far as having a float there, the boat ramp is good enough. Anybody can pull up the boat ramp and walk the 150 feet over to the park if they want to use the park facility. I have no preference on which layout you use or which building. I only go for the wave one only because it's a little more modern. Maybe the time to break a little bit with the New England tradition around here is just something to talk about. This that and parking. I think we probably want 2 entrances only because it's easier getting out of there at Jericho Road. Get around, especially with Hadley turn there. But there's parking spaces. There's probably 7 or 8 students that drive or their parents come to pick people up. So we have plenty of parking for a program. That's my comment.
Thank you, Scott. As I said, the zoning requirement would require a building to be 9 to 10 feet above the ground. So,
Oh, could I just say something?
sure.
I just want to make it clear that Situate Recreation runs their sailing program out of the other side of the harbor. So I believe what they're talking about is for Situate High School's sailing team, which, if I am not mistaken, only runs spring season. And maybe Mr. Payne could speak better to this, but I believe spring season runs from after March 20th until maybe May. So I would just be concerned about taking away a big piece of the park for a program that runs maybe 8 weeks, when there is other places for them to utilize. So I just, again, wanted to make sure that that was out there.
And
Thanks, Jen.
thanks, Jen. And Paul, I want to chime in. I used to coach high school sailing up in Maine, so I kind of get what Scott's talking about, but I would love to talk to you, Scott, some more. But even if this is not an enclosed structure, you know, these concepts aren't getting into the detail of site furnishings and other ways we can kind of integrate features, whether it's, you know, outdoor chalkboards or places, you know, seating that would be best for the sailing team, or other, you know, these features that maybe it's not an enclosed structure, but we haven't really dug into how site furnishings and the details could really support that type of programming or other programming for this park. So I think there's some opportunities there.
Thanks, Christine. I'm not sure who's on the phone that ends 910, but you're welcome to make any comments you like. Not hearing anyone else want to make any comments at this point?
Paul, if I could, just a real addition to Jennifer's comments earlier, you know, just to not confuse the school's interest in this, you know, although the sailing team was part of that component, you know, a lot of things get lost in translation in conversations like this that carry over for many, many months. So initially, the school's interest was also for the use for a type of harborside classroom facility where they might be able, as Scott Payne mentioned, they were thinking about having classroom, you know, a classroom type facility there where they could have science classes down, you know, groups, maritime science groups, environmental groups, and that sort of thing. So Jennifer, although our needs are only 2 months, which everyone's aware of, the school was looking at it for more of a.
Right, and Ed, I did check into that because you made that comment at the last meeting. I spoke to the superintendent's office and they had never heard of that that ask before. And then I reached out to a few teachers at the high school. And again, so I don't know if that was coming from somebody's wish list at the high school, but nobody at Situate Public Schools had heard anything about that concept that they were looking for. So I don't know where that came from. I mean, I would absolutely wish we had a much larger spot so we could have, you know, an oceanfront classroom. But I think that the concept of what they're looking for is a more open space, and to put a building there would sort of take away from it. So
Yeah, well, and it's all fairly moot at this point anyhow, due to the environmental sensitivity of the area. So given the floodplain issues and everything else, it was an early wish list discussion. Scott Payne, the athletic director who's on this call, was in that as well. And we had conversations with some, you know, we hadn't taken it formally to the school because, you know, we've been working through this conceptual phase. And, you know, now that we're reaching this point, I think, you know, the school, at least my interest is going to be withdrawn. I just wish you all a lot of luck on this park. It looks beautiful. And to reiterate what Scott said before, I think it'll be a wonderful addition to the harbor.
Thank you, Ed. Hey,
So if
Christine, I want to
Paul-
throw it
Paul,
back
could
to
I-
you, and let's move forward with the rest of your presentation.
Okay, great. So really want to talk about the next couple months and how we move forward, but I'm going to throw this, we can dig into this as we move forward, but wanted to flash this up onto the screen. Again, this is just a preliminary look at the project schedule, like past April. And what I mean by that is we've thrown out, you know, we were talking, I guess, recently to the town design review team about permitting and what permits would be needed for this process. And that's leading us down the road of what needs to happen when do our technical studies need to happen in order to move as efficiently as possible through this process. So if Madeline, if you don't mind zooming into the top left corner, yeah, for the next couple of months, what's up next is we want, in our mind, we're thinking that we're going to get some more public engagement on these concepts to help us really nail down, a preferred design. And we're kind of set up to do an online questionnaire. It would make sense to do that, maybe have it open around for like 3 weeks long. It's just, again, these are just some thoughts and we can kind of debate what makes the most sense, but we're thinking put out an online questionnaire in a couple weeks. And maybe Paul, you and others, we can work out the details before you take off, so that it goes out to the public in mid-February, and then schedule a public meeting or workshop towards the end of the month, so that we can then close the questionnaire. So then in that public meeting, for example, if no one's heard about the questionnaire, they still have an opportunity to fill out the questionnaire, but we've gotten preliminary results that we can kind of share. So all of this I'm talking about all this because we really want to get all the input we need to have a preferred design by the early March 10th, ideally a month before the April 10th meeting. So the reason why we want to have a kind of preferred design selected or defined, I guess I'd say, by early March, is that'll give GZA the opportunity to have pre-application meetings with permitting agencies in March ahead of, so they can kind of just confirm our I guess give input on our concept, so that if we need to make any tweaks, we do so sooner rather than later. So again, that this project can move efficiently through the permitting process. I'm going to, the rest of this is just, again, trying to begin to nail down when it would make sense to do the geotechnical investigation, building demo, environmental property assessment, thinking, it's going to take a chunk of time for the design team, architect, all the engineers to produce bid documents to move through that design process and secure all those permits. But we're hoping to maybe start demo work like on the building sooner rather than later. So anyways, we're beginning to kind of put these tasks down on a schedule, and just kind of so everyone's on the same page. And I just note that this schedule does account for the most extensive permitting. So on the next slide, I want to take a look at kind of February, March, April, unless Ryan, there's anything you want to chime in on kind of big picture.
I think you pretty much covered it. There's sort of the two items that drive the majority of this timeline is permitting is the longest path, though it can be shorter than what we've shown here, depending on what we actually decide to put in the park. And then on the design, the geotechnical investigation is probably the next step, once we have a concept decided, to actually finalizing the design. But permitting is going to be the main driver of the timeline.
And so with Ryan looking at the permitting, kind of the most extensive permitting, we're looking at hopefully having all those permits in place and bid documents done by the end of 2024 for spring 2025 construction start. And that construction, you're guessing is about a year or so. It'd be potentially completed by, or ideally completed by June 2026. Is that correct?
3 years.
Okay. So that's yes, Ryan?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was, I mean, we haven't really looked at the construction, but
Okay.
Once again, it kind of depends on what we're looking at, but I think holding a year is probably pretty safe.
Conservative. Okay. Thank you. Again, as you noted, this is just very preliminary. So, and does include the more extensive permitting assumptions. So yeah, Mal, if you can just leave it on this slide. Looking forward, is doing an online survey and having like a in-person public meeting, community workshop, like an event. Is that what this team would like to do between now and, over the next month or so?
Yeah, I think we had talked about 2 public meetings.
2 public meetings. So,
Maybe.
I know you also this evening, Paul, want to kind of go through kind of the outreach list.
Right.
If we're going to do 2 public meetings, I think my proposal to everyone would be to go to schedule that sooner rather than later. And the question for you all is, would you want to go forth with these 3 concepts?
Say that last part again, Christine.
Go forth, present these 3 concepts. In other words, kind of open up to the greater public, gain their input on all 3, or based on what we heard tonight with kind of a general preference from the majority for number 3, and taking kind of pieces of what people generally like on others, kind of starting the process of pulling together one preferred concept that we go to the community with to get input on, with some optionality, but not as diverse as the 3 options.
Paul?
Karen?
Yeah, I think the question is, in my mind, what exactly is the survey what's it going to ask? What are we asking people to look at? Because it seems to me as though, if possibly you might want to, I don't know, you're the experts here, you might want to put up the 3 concepts with a statement about each one of them. And you might want to preface the entire survey with, we can't build an enclosed building. What we know we can do, and we have to keep saying it over and over and over again, what is possible, what is affordable, what is, so, and I think I would like to think that the community survey is going to give us more input on the 3 options, and then present at the public meeting a compilation of which was the preferred, and let people comment on the preferred option at the public meeting. So that's why I think you might want to, it looks like you've got at least 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks for the community survey. And it should give you enough time to compile the results and then present the results we'd have to have 2 public meetings. We could have one during the day and we could have one at night.
So yeah, no, that's helpful. And I absolutely agree. We're prefacing the survey with all of everything we've worked out over the last couple of months. Also highlighting the similarities between all 3 and making it very clear the differences between all 3. I think in order to have the the pre-application meetings, really need to kind of have at least a good idea of the direction we're moving in order to kind of fit that in March. So maybe we can kind of work from the schedule backwards, and that'll help us figure out exactly the content, what we're presenting, and seek feedback on it each.
Yeah, because I'm not sure that if you present 3 options at the public meetings, that there will be time enough to take all the input and then present. We'd have to go back and present yet another final design, I suppose, which is why I'm trying to say, I think that we need to have people go online and read the survey and give us their input about the 3 designs, and then synthesize it, and then come back at the public meeting to say, these were the 3 concepts, these are the results of the survey, this is the what we're hearing from people, and therefore we're submitting to this group, this is the preferred design. what other input do you have? Because as you all point out, we're coming up against a pretty hard deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'd add, Christine, I think that's a good approach. And I
Okay.
think the survey may be good to have a little narrative that, how did we get where we are, and, the site investigation, what that revealed, and a little background like that. And then,
Yeah.
But I think that's a good plan.
So, for the public meetings, want to make sure, and I don't know, situate with scheduling it and advertising it and all that, how much time is needed to really get a good audience. And I guess my questions are, where is it going to be? What evening, or is it going to not be in the evening, and all that I kind of want to work out. I think we could launch the community survey a week earlier, like in a week and a half. Honestly, I think we could launch it like the 6th of, and then have it run those 2 weeks, and then have a public meeting if there's enough time to organize and make that happen the week of the 20th. Have the public meeting that week, the first one.
That would be great.
Okay.
That's school vacation week, just
Ooh.
Oh,
FYI.
right.
Early the following week.
I mean, I'm just saying, if you're
Yeah,
looking
no,
for.
you're absolutely right. School vacation week is a sacred thing around here. And I just want to point out that the Community Preservation Committee is scheduled to present its recommended projects to the select board on the 28th of February. And this is one of the projects they're recommending. So that will be, we've been trying to get feedback from each select board member, and we've been reaching out to other boards and committees, as you know, but that will be kind of if we have some survey results to share that night, even if they're preliminary, that would be a very good thing.
Okay. Well, I think we can make that happen. So Madeline, I'm not sure if you could just kind of draw on this and stuff, and just so notes, so we can all see what we're all talking about. But when do you think do you think we can do it the week of the 27th, that public meeting, or how does that work with that meeting on the 28th? Or
Well, I would do the public meetings that first week of March. And we have plenty of facilities now where we can schedule meetings, plus now being able to put things on, either have them televised, hybrid meetings, Zoom meetings, all these different types of meetings. The participation in person is always welcome, but it's not a deal breaker anymore that it used to be. And I want to remind everyone, it's still the winter around here. So we still have plenty of opportunities for snow days and for meetings to get postponed or canceled. So I think that aiming for the first week of March for 2 public meetings, one could be in the day, it could be at the senior center, and the other could be at night, and that could be at the library. Probably the best place for it at this point. And we'll just publicize the fact that you can join via Zoom, whatever.
yeah, we'll come in person, but we can do it hybrid. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe it's consecutive days, even one day and one night. Consecutive days.
Hey, that's a good question, Karen. I liked where you're going with this. However, when we get to public meetings, are we going to be in a position where we can actually demonstrate we have a design that we feel comfortable with, or are we still asking for input?
Well, I think what we're trying to do is, with the community survey, hopefully getting broader community input on the 3 designs, which they like, which they don't like, what their comments are about it, and then to have the Copley Wolf synthesize the results of the public survey and then present at the public meetings the 3 designs, and then the preferred design as we've been gathering input from all the various boards, committees, and the public at large. And the public will still have an opportunity, clearly, to have a lot of input at that point as to what they like about it, what they don't like about it.
So I would say, go ahead.
I think at some point, though, we really need to put a stake in the ground and talk about this is what the preferred design looks like. Even with CPC, we're going to say CPC, I would think, is going to want to know what is this going to look like. The public certainly is. I appreciate all the public input and the surveys, but in order to
How CPC is not approving the park design. The request to see at this point, the CPC request is for funding for the pre-construction activities that will occur between the town meeting and the going to bid and constructing the project. So we don't have to, in fact, we've already been to CPC. We've got unanimous approval on January 9th, $300,000 in funding. Of course, that has to be approved by the advisory committee and the select board, and we have meetings scheduled in February, as Karen noted, with them. So, I mean, I think the schedule of an online survey, and then of course input from this commission, and all the other, we've talked to the advisory committee, we've talked to the community preservation. We talked to each of the select board members. So we're getting a lot of input, and as well as all the input from these meetings. And that will inform, I think, a preferred design that would go to public meeting early March. And then, of course, we want to listen to those comments and then refine, and everything else we've heard, and then refine that proposal for town meeting on April 10th. I think that's.
But Paul, the only thing is, the way I'm looking at this calendar right now, the preferred design is the week after the public meetings. Wouldn't it be advantageous for us to have something a little more definitive at the public meetings? Because otherwise, you could end up going back to the drawing board again with all sorts of input.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't think we want a done deal going to the public meeting, because then it wouldn't be that meeting.
Yeah, I agree. I would suggest this, and maybe, sorry, Melanie, I can keep up if, I would say we're going into the public meetings with a draft preferred design. And then based on the public meetings, we can really kind of button it up that second week of March. So I'm thinking maybe we can work together, Corey. We can, push and get this online survey published. I think it's possible to get this online by next Friday, the 3rd, and then to close it on the 20th. And that gives 3 weekends, 2 weeks, I think, for folks to fill it out. I would keep it open the week of the vacation week, but I think we just need some time to respond to it and pull it all together for like the 28th meeting and the 2 public meetings. So I think two questions. One is, how is this going to be publicized? We can assist with making a flyer with a QR code. Of course, there's the website. We have a QR code for that, all of that. Just want to kind of open up that discussion. And then the other question is, does this group, the SHARC group, want to meet again, the end, right around like before the public meetings? Or I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
If I could suggest one idea, and that would be if we could get some sort of a visible sign on Pier 44 on the property with the QR code on it, and say to people, if they're walking by, if you want to fill out this, because that's what you use it for, right? The QR code, so they can fill out a survey on their phone.
Right, exactly.
So if I guarantee you lots and lots and lots of people walk by that property and would have a real interest in this. So that's one thing we can do. And we have a Facebook page in town that people look at. We can also ask a couple of people to, I don't use some of the social media, but for those people who do, if they want to post a link if they're allowed to. Some of the, one of the sites doesn't allow you to do that. But I think, and certainly all of the public meetings that I've been attending, even if it's nothing to do with this, I've been telling people about it. So, and we do mention, we have a weekly broadcast that's only like a 10-minute broadcast with the town administrator and the superintendent of schools and a select board member. And we talk about these types of things all the time. And it gets viewed by a lot of people, considering that we're a small town. So I think we have a variety of ways. That we also have a mailing list in town, an email list where we push out information. And the town has its own website, obviously, and we can get a flag at the top of it that says, please look for the Pier 44 survey, please fill it out.
Corey, you have your hand up.
Yeah, one thing we can do also is put it on the message board. We have those big digital message boards. Do you know what I'm talking about, Karen? That
At the transfer station, yes.
we can put one down at Pier 44.
Right.
Maybe
that would-
also to Karen, could they put one out in front of town hall? And I mean, for
Oh,
those
sure.
maybe people who don't
Yes.
or have not the ability to get down to Pier 44, but maybe drive by.
Yep.
we can-
The visitor center social media could also promote it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we've had so much success in the past with getting the word out that I don't think that that's going to be an issue. The one question that I did have, Christine, was the cost estimates. Are we going to have any ideas about how much this is going to cost? Because I think that's going to be the next topic of discussion when we go to public meeting. Is people are going to be wondering, well, this looks great, but how much does it cost?
Right.
Yes, we absolutely will. And so I think our cost estimator is going to do their work in February so that we would have those numbers, or at least this team would have those numbers before the public meeting. And this group can work together. It'll just help kind of button up the design, honestly. But it'll be important to have that before the design is buttoned up that second week of March, I think, before any pre-application meetings happen. And so then, yes, you would have that information for the April.
Corey, could you take the lead in the notice of the online survey and the public meetings? Just
Yes. Yeah.
talk to Karen.
Yeah, and the good news is these aren't public meetings that are. We have public meetings that are legal public meetings, and that's in a whole other thing. And this is not that. So when we're saying public meetings, in my mind, sometimes people think they're the ones we have to advertise. Corey knows all about those, but this is strictly a public input, so no one's confused about legalities.
So we definitely should have another SHARC meeting before the public meetings, and I'm wondering, we traditionally have these on Thursdays. Is February 23rd? Is that Christine, you think that's the right time frame?
I can do it.
I mean, in terms of getting the survey, having information, narrowing
I
down.
think that would be great. I mean, if people can attend, given it's vacation week, I mean, that would be great for our team to regroup with you before the public meetings.
Just quick survey of the SHARC commissioners. I'll be available. Howie?
Yes.
Yes, Patrice?
Yes.
Okay, Jen?
Yeah, I'll be available. All my kids are out of public
Karen?
school now, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
here.
it sounds like we'll have critical mass.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a copy of the survey before it's distributed.
Yeah, I think we can work to pull those together and then circulate it to this group.
Yeah,
next
we
week.
definitely, we'll circle it.
That would be great. Okay. And let's see. So I think, that 23rd meeting, it would be here are the results of the survey, here are estimates on the cost on the 3 concepts, and here's what we're planning to present at the public, should we call them public input workshops or something, not to get, or you can kind of call them something.
Just
Public information,
how about public workshops?
public information. Workshop sounds like they're gonna have to do something.
Okay.
Public information meeting.
Nobody wants to do anything, right? They just want to
Yeah,
have
yeah.
input.
Public info session? No,
Yes,
we have,
Yeah.
okay, and then as far as venue, you guys will figure out where we're
Yeah.
meeting, or do you already know where we'll be meeting?
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you that the senior center is a good place during the day and the library is a good place at night.
So, okay.
Yeah, so Corey, will you take the lead on securing those, scheduling them?
Yes, I'll look it up tomorrow to see when they're available.
Paul,
Yes, so
I haven't come to all of your meetings. Is there a name for the park?
No, don't ask.
Okay, well, someone's gonna ask.
Yeah,
well,
well,
I kind of like the park at Pier 44. It's pretty.
I do too.
Yeah, Paul always calls it, what is it, what did you say, park at Pier 44?
The park at Pier 44.
Yes,
all I can tell you all is, having been through some of these naming exercises, they sound simple and they are absolutely not. They are a nightmare sometimes. So I would just say to people, to be determined, and we'll have to have a contest or something. It's going to be.
Karen, why don't we just name it after you?
Oh, great idea. And then I'll have to move out of town. Anyway.
Okay, just I didn't know.
Little levity there.
But we certainly welcome creative input, and the business center has a lot of that for sure. So
I do think we have time to deal with the name issue.
You saw how long it takes us to get through the permitting process.
Yeah.
So.
We'll be in 2025.
Yeah.
Okay, Christine, let's keep moving.
That's it. So that's all we had for this evening.
Great.
So Paul, we have a little news for them, don't we? There is no more sloop.
Oh, okay.
Well, not necessarily. I mean,
Yeah.
they're changing. They're doing a
On demand.
deal, but I don't think that's for this year, and knows what's going. I mean,
Oh, I think it's like it's starting like in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So
I'm just saying that's kind of been a little bit of
I'd say it's dynamic.
A little glitch. That's all.
So let's get into well, thank you, Copley Wolf team. Great information presentation. Again, the pavilion designs and concepts are really breathtaking and exciting. So let's hit outreach plan. I just wanted to, I've updated the SHARC on some of the activities since December, our last meeting, December 1st. But and Karen and Corey and I've kind of taken the lead on these meetings. We can't have a quorum of the commission, as you know, so we worked this group. We met with the community preservation December 12th and made our proposal and request for a $300,000 grant for the pre-construction activities. We presented to the advisory committee on December 15th. That was not a specific ask. That was just to give them tell them who we were and what we're doing, and we'll be back with the proposals. We met with the town departments on December 21st, met with the community preservation committee again on January 9th, where they did unanimously approve the $300,000, as I mentioned. That's for a pre-construction work, and that's subject to approvals from the advisory committee, the select board, and of course, town meeting. We had a real good meeting with Jim Boudreau, our town administrator, and he highly favors the concept. We got great input from him and assistance. And then as Karen mentioned, Karen and I have met with 3 of the other select board members. We've got 1 to go, and we've got really good feedback and great support for the project. We had a Copley Wolf gave a presentation to the Situate Design Review Team on January 17th. Got a lot of really helpful feedback from them. And then we've got back to advisory committee, I think it's February 9th, and then to the select board February 28th. Those are really great meetings. And then Corey, I want you to report on the MAPC grant.
Yes, we are very, very happy to be the recipient of a $100,000 grant from the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. And that funding will go towards the geotechnical and the furthering the design phase so that we can move towards completion of the design. So that is a 2-year grant, and we just are ready to kind of combine that with the CPC funds. Right after town meeting, we can get started on that.
Thanks, Corey, and thank you very much for your initiative and skill in applying for the grant, and even better, getting the grant awarded. Great work. In addition, we've got about $224,000 of available MBTA mitigation funds available to the project as well. So, of course, that's the construction is a big cost, or we'll find out what it is, but we're talking, several $1 million probably. And one of the great assets that Copley Wolf brought to their proposal was their success in finding grant money from projects and helping us identify grant sources that we will pursue. And as Christine pointed out, the preferred design that we have will incorporate features that score well for the various grant programs. So I'm really confident that we'll have really good project for pursuing grant funds. And then, our team, and Patrice particularly, brings great expertise to other people's money, finding other people's money, help us build this fabulous project. So a big part of our outreach, in addition to the online survey and the public meetings, will be, to the town departments and commissions. And of course, we have 5 commissions that are represented on SHARC. And then there's numerous community groups that we want to talk to, and the Chamber of Commerce, the Harbor Merchants, on and on and on. So what we've done is create a working list of these organizations, and we're going to assign each of us or one or more of us to make presentations or other contacts for those groups. And this includes the neighboring property owners, Situate Tavern, Marina, everyone who we think might have an interest. And so I've sent out a list with some preliminary assignments. Corey, I know the design review committee we've already presented to, and if you could, under the design review committee, just list all the departments. I like police and fire, whoever already included in that. So we can check the box that we've talked with them, but we've done it through the design review committee. So if you do that, and everyone else, I've heard from Patrice, but Jen, and I've talked with Howie earlier. So if you could self-identify which of these groups that you'd be willing to take the lead on. My plan is to develop a generic slide deck that can be presented to any group, and as well as background materials that kind of give the whole history of the acquisition of the property and what our mission is, and who we've talked to, and kind of where we are and where we're headed. To be 2 or 3 pages, and so those would be presentation materials if you want to use them to help the presentation. We find the PowerPoint, and you can do it as a PowerPoint or as a PDF, and then again use it for your presentations as you see fit. So, any comments on any of that? Do want to hear back on. Could respond on the list I sent out that take anyone off that we don't need to have there, add anyone that we missed, and most important, indicate the ones that you'll take the lead. Any comments or questions on any of that?
Paul, it's Karen. Did you also present to EDC?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so I presented to EDC Monday night this week, right? So I used a slide deck PowerPoint to present,
and that's usually a pretty a good group from all around.
Yeah, and of course, it's the attendees are broader than just the commission members, and so we have good comments. You know, I will put out that every group we've talked to, we've heard a wide range of opinions regarding parking. It goes from as little parking as possible to let's have a parking lot and a little parklet next to it. I'm serious. So parking's a big deal, and I'm not sure if 15 spaces is going to cut it, to tell you the truth. So
well,
that's an issue out there. I like the 3 alternatives in the presentation today, but I've been I've taken notice of how important parking is to a lot of people who we've talked to that are interested in this project. So
I think we both have. And I asked Corey yesterday, who graciously fulfilled my request for the number of parking spaces at all public facilities in town, including beaches, et cetera, because we're not going to we can't make more land. And I don't think we want to put just a parking lot with some trees on it on that site. But my hope is that we can reach a sweet spot with people who want all parking and people who want no parking, and maybe use some technological devices to make that happen. And if it means being able to use the high school parking lot, which is huge and is very underused in the summer, just as an example, and to have either people be able to pick up a shuttle that would be regularly scheduled. I mean, I think, or people are complaining about not being able to get parking when they want to use their boats. And I'm just wondering if there's some applications like they use in cities where you can make a reservation for parking, or you can look on the app and find a site where or a space where there is parking. So I think we just need to, and we have not approached Barker Tavern yet. So I hope we can overcome this problem, but it's looming out there.
Paul, can I just say about that? The visitor center has a meeting with, now I can't remember who the group is, but we just set it up today, but it's for micro transportation and funding for that. So that's an important piece with the visitor center as well.
So could you describe what that is? Is it the extended like golf cart type vehicle?
Well, actually, we could talk about it in reference to Sea Plymouth, where they got, it is probably the size of an oversized golf cart with a roof on it. And maybe even, you could probably go online onto their website, Sea Plymouth, and really see it because they were funded this year and they're going to be funded again next year. And I think they may have had 3 or 4 of those vehicles. So one of the members of EDC, Susie, went to a local meeting of a regional meeting about transportation around the South Shore, and this person was really helpful in that discussion. Then we heard about GATRA sloop the other day because we've been talking with them. So I think that will be manageable. I do think the parking, because it's always an issue, no matter what group you're working with.
Right, right. But I just
I just share that one of my dream jobs has always been to drive one of those small carts with them. And so I may volunteer for that.
You'd be the captain of the
Okay.
fleet.
Yeah. Great, thank you, Sue. So,
Well, and I think we
and
should.
just one more thing, Stephen, Karen.
Yeah.
When we talked with Jim Boudreau, he said he would talk to the folks who operate the sloop about flexibility and opportunities. And we've talked about having a loop, say, from the marina to Gold Parkway to Pier 44 to the lighthouse, and it's every 15 minutes, you know, in the summer or whatever. So I think, you know, whatever their plans are for starting in February, I don't think that's forever.
Yeah, we've been talking with them for over a year and have never been able to figure out who the contact is at the town.
No one seems to know that.
So no one has fessed up. So well, I think once we all get rowing in the same direction, we'll be able to tackle this. And like you said, Karen, there's parking in schools at schools during the summer that's unutilized. I don't know what's happening with the Barker. You know, there's other opportunities that we can figure out.
Right.
Other comments?
I'm just gonna add I think it'll be important to get all of your help with this survey and making sure that it's clear in the survey that you all are keenly aware of the parking concern and working on it, because I hate to put this out and just have everyone, you know, in the additional comments, text box, just write no parking lot, you know. I mean, I'm not saying everyone's aggressive about that. You've had this conversation, but incorporating that into the online survey, I think would be important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's a key. We need to get that right. Okay, anything else on outreach? Okay, let's go to reports from commissioners.
Very quickly on outreach.
Yeah.
So I understand correctly, you want us to look at this and check off who will present in front of?
Yes. You'll contact, and if they would like a presentation, do it, or there are
You know, like 2 of them that can do, and I'll just put it in there and let you know.
Great. I'm figuring you for half the list.
Oh, great.
And Patrice the other half. Patrice is
Fabulous.
taking on quite a few already, so that's great.
I know, I saw her name on quite a few. That's why I was hoping maybe she'd take on a few more.
Great. Okay, reports from commissioners. As I mentioned earlier, I gave a presentation, and again, thank you, Sue, for, I think you gave me, I think we took an hour on this of your meeting time, so that was great. Appreciate it at Economic Development Commission, and got a lot of good feedback and comments and questions. So that was great. One of the things I asked Sue for is, and I suggest this for each of your commissions, that we have on an agenda item prior to the April town meeting that express support for the proposal that's going to town meeting, and which is technically, I think, just the CPC funding. So we want support, and what I'd like to be able to do at town meeting is recite or provide a list at least of all the groups and organizations and people we've talked to, and as well list those who are formally supporting the request. So keep that in mind, and please consider asking the commissions that you're liaison to express support that we can communicate at town Patrice, do you have any reports?
I mean, I haven't shared the visual concepts. I've just talked about it so far. And Jennifer, I really appreciate your lovely offer to take on more. I'm going to have to respectfully refuse at this moment. In fact, I'm going to pass them on to you. But no, the Situate Harbor Cultural District loves the idea of less parking, more park, as does the Sister City Partnership. So they're sort of in the idea that we could really use more. And they love the idea of the pavilion and just having that sort of really activating the space, because we've had this conversation. There's a lot of passive space already in town. So they like the idea of more active opportunities to use what could be a beautiful parcel.
Thanks, Patrice. Howie?
Last meeting of the Waterways Commission was the first Wednesday in December. And at that point, my comments were merely introductory that, in fact, we were moving ahead with some plans. We were moving ahead with park plans and the rejuvenation of the property. We talked about knowing that the property is in a flood zone and elevations would be excessive for particular buildings. We laid that groundwork. But short of that, we didn't really get to any more discussion because I didn't have any visuals to share with them. So they were fine with that at the moment.
So you and I talked about your upcoming meeting, given the presentation.
Next Wednesday, February 1st, tentatively is our next.
I'm losing your volume.
Yeah, next Wednesday, Paul, at 7 o'clock is scheduled Waterways meeting. If you're available, that would be helpful with visuals, because that will be a Zoom meeting also.
Great. If you could send me that information, and I'll coordinate with you on the presentation. Great. Jen?
So we met with Rec, I believe it was last week, Rec Commission. I informed them of sort of where we were in the project and provided them with the previous presentation. I think had some information that was important for them to know about. I do know that the director and assistant director were really hoping for space to continue with some of their programming. But based on tonight's meeting, it looks like that won't happen, but it's mostly because putting a building there is, if I understand correctly, putting a building there is because of permitting and other things. So, I mean, it is what it is at this point for having the building there. But I do know, as Karen said, there's plenty of space in town that hopefully we can relocate the programming that they currently have there. And based on the timeline, it looks like we have about 2.5 to 3 years to find them some space in town. And Paul, I just wanted to circle back on something we had talked about at the last meeting. We were going to try to reach out to all of the groups that did have programming there. I know that I think Michelle and possibly Lorraine were working on a list, and not sure those people have been reached out.
Lorraine, Devin has done a great job in putting together a list of every user of the public community building at Pier 44. And then she's also identified alternative spaces, and then we will be reaching out to every one of those users. So I don't know that it's occurred yet. Don't think it needs to have occurred yet, but we'll do so before town meeting.
Great. And then I have a rec meeting on the 28th of February. So any visuals that you have, we meet in person. So any visuals you have that I can provide to them, I will. And I'll look at that list and I'll take on a few more of those committees to present in front of. School committee should be no problem. I can get in front of them. And just going down the list here and seeing a few others. Beach Commission usually is at the rec meeting. So if they're at the meeting, I can provide them with the handouts as well.
Great. Karen, anything you want to report on?
No,
Let me just first say,
done it all.
thank you, Karen. You're amazing. Anytime we need anything, you're there. Anytime we need to schedule a meeting, you do it. And you're you've been at every one of these meetings I mentioned and added to the briefings and responded to questions. So really appreciate all of that.
Well, back to you, Paul and Corey and company.
Great. Thanks, Karen. Corey, anything else you want to report on?
I can present these concepts to Coastal Advisory Commission next week, as well as Beach Commission.
Oh, great. Great. Let's see. Public comment. Any comment from the public we haven't heard already?
Yeah, this is Scott Greenbaum again. Just want to make sure that you are aware that Alcohol Anonymous uses the building and they have 80 to 100 people that show up. I think it's every Monday.
Yeah, the list that Lorraine compiled is very extensive. So yes. We're acutely sensitive to the fact that people hate being dislocated, and they hate it even worse when they don't hear about it with enough time. But we didn't want to start, quote unquote, kicking people out of the building until it was the time to do it. And the time is quite a long way away. So, but we'll be notifying people that, that we've identified some alternative locations for you. Come and talk to us, etc. So yes, thank you, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's not a long time away. I think that schedule he's starting to tear the building down in about 6 months.
Yeah, you're right. Well, it feels like a long way away to me.
You guys
Just on that, yeah, Christine. So what's the timing on taking the building down?
Yeah, I'll turn that over to Ryan. Go.
Yeah. So just one point on clarity on the schedule, that 6 month out is the building demolition assessment, which is slightly different than the building demolition. So because it's a historical structure, before we actually do a demolition, we're going to need to go through and sample and test for hazardous materials, asbestos, PCB caulking, and that type of those type of materials in the building. And that's what we're showing on the schedule as occurring in relatively short order. And then once that assessment has been completed and we've put that report together, we would have to file with the building department and the Department of Health to come up with the demolition plan and get permitting. And we don't actually have the actual building demolition shown here. I think when we put the schedule together, we assumed it happened as part of construction. It doesn't necessarily have to happen that way, but that's what's shown on the schedule.
Well, and we have to secure financing to actually build this thing, and that will include the demolition. So at the very earliest, and I view this as being extremely unlikely, but earliest, town meeting would vote on to build it and finance it in November of this coming year. But I don't think that's going to happen. So I would say, Scott, you'd be looking at probably next April at the earliest before the building would be coming down. That's just, I think, the reality.
Yeah, and I think we coordinate with the fire department. They may want to be involved and use it for training purposes as well. So that is off more than a year. Okay, any other? Yeah, Christine.
Yeah, I just want to help folks when they're talking to others about why not an enclosed building. I just want to kind of see, I'm going to try to simplify this. We'll see how well I do on this. Ryan, you might have to help me on this, but the site grade from along Jericho Road from one end to the other, it does change, but 7 to 9 feet. And we're looking at, if we had an enclosed building, having it up at 16 or 18 feet, depending on where it is on the site. So we're talking, as Paul mentioned earlier, 10 feet. And we can't fill on the site that much because of the wetland, adjacent wetland. We just can't build this site up so it's a mountain in this zone. Even if we put it on, let's say we put it on piling, so it wasn't on terra firma, we would still need to get people up to that elevation accessibly. So that would be filling the site up with a lot of, ramps and et cetera. So hopefully that's helpful for folks.
Yeah, I think it is. And
That, yeah, Thank you. That is very helpful. I just wrote it all down so that I can
Oh, good.
at least speak clearly on it and sound like I know what I'm talking about. But thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Not to mention it would cost millions of dollars.
Yes.
That too.
That too.
Okay, anything else from anyone for this meeting? Again, let me just thank Christine and your whole team for all your great work and great information. And we'll look forward to the survey and preparation for the town meeting and narrowing in on a preferred alternative. And so we'll get this all done and it'll be great. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Great. All those in favor say aye.
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 Vote unanimous. Thank you, everyone. And I'll send the minutes and presentation materials and the agenda for our meeting later this in February. Great. Thanks, everyone. Good
Thank you,
night. Thanks.
everyone.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
And thank you, Seth.
You got it. Have a good night.
You too.